Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Letters from Russia with Simon Roche, where me and him are going to have a bit of a chat of what he's been up to this last week and a half. Hi, welcome, Simon.
Thanks, Marius. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so what have you been up to, Simon, this last week and a half? I've seen some of the videos and the things that you've sent to my colleague here in the studio. It looks like you've been all over the show.
Yeah, I have been all over the show, and poor old Arnold is getting these little bits and bobs from me. Hopefully, later on, we'll be able to figure them out. But it has been so busy that I've been recording videos and then had to stop because we come to a military police checkpoint, and then have to stop because tanks being transported past us or air defense systems. I mean, it's mind-boggling stuff. Or I just get involved in a very serious conversation, and it's not the right time to record. And so there's been a lot happening. Since I last spoke to you at the end of last week, I was very busy.
Yep.
Our host in Donetsk, the Russian representative or part of the representation, one of the senior people, my host, Mikhail Glebov, kept me quite busy for a few days there. And then Friday was a busy travel day down to Crimea. In fact, I should mention that on Thursday, we traveled to Mariupol, the scene of the Azovstal battle that lasted 2 months, right at the beginning of the special military operation, which began on Thursday, the 24th of February, 2022. So it lasted until early May, if I recall correctly. I need to do some research and fill in some blanks over and above the simple filming that I did there. And that was an incredible experience to witness, to go to the Azovstal plant. You can't go inside, but there are parts of it that are exposed. So you're not going inside, you're not breaking a rule or anything like that. For instance, the Azovstal plant it was the largest rolling mill in Europe. It was from Soviet times. It was beyond enormous. It had its own blocks of flats and soccer fields, and it had a sports stadium, proper sports stadium. And you can get into the sports stadium, which we did. And there were battles there, and you can see it's a bit like if you went into Gaza right now and you walked through the ruins. There have been no improvements made whatsoever.
Mm.
Obviously, there's a lot of stuff going on. They haven't been able to fix that yet, as they are fixing so many things. The way they're repairing the roads in Donbass is just incredible. But it is still in the state of calamity, catastrophe. It's quite a moving experience, Marius. And the next day, Mikhail brought me to Crimea, as far as Perekop. Crimea is not an island, it's a peninsula, strictly speaking, with an isthmus. So that means a very narrow section that joins, if you want to call it, mainland Russia to the peninsula. So a narrow section, you drive along there, halfway along, you get to a checkpoint, and they grill you. And I got there, and they were all cool, calm, and collected. But within about a minute and a half, you could tell that they were calling senior people. And I had nothing to worry about. I wasn't up to anything, and I was being accompanied by a member of the Russian Federation delegation to Crimea. So it's effectively a border post.
Yeah.
So I got there. Mikhail Glebov dropped me off after 2 weeks of fantastic hospitality and generosity and kindness, and great, fantastic conversation. And now I'm in the hands of a lady called Yevgenia, but I didn't know her. So I didn't know what to expect of her. What kind of a person is she? She turned out to be a bit of a absolutely sweet, 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 sweet lady. But here I am with this unknown person. She's going to take me into Crimea, and they start, calling for senior people. And the next thing, they're scanning my luggage, and they find mementos from the battle at Nikolskaya Monastery, where the Ukrainians attacked this monastery and church and what have you. Grim battle. All of the big pieces of the tanks and armored personnel carriers and what have you still lie there, right in front of the monastery. The Ukrainians got up right close to within, at the risk of exaggerating, 30 meters. I don't think it can be more than that. And they just destroyed this place. And then the Russians came in and nailed them. And I've got a piece of shrapnel and 7 or 8 spent cartridges. Oh, heavens above. And then they took me to another place, and they took my fingerprints and biometric scanning of my eyes, and you name it. It became a story. So I was becoming progressively more nervous. Not that I was frightened that I was going to be locked up or anything. I'm traveling on a legal passport. I've got the little paper thing. I forgot. It's not a visa. It's something else. It's a travel document. I forget the precise name. And I'm with a very high official of the Russian Federation's foreign ministry. So nothing to panic about, but it wasn't going lacquer. And it went on and on and on. And then they asked me if I'm a Christian, and I said, yes. And they said, yeah, but you're not wearing a cross. Aha! I said, well, it's not where I come from, it's not our tradition. It's not customary. I said, but my Bible is here and my prayer book. I've been traveling with this. It's actually my grandfather's, my mother's father, my grandfather on my mother's side. I've traveled half the world with this Bible. It goes with me everywhere, and I've got, as I say, a prayer book. So this woman, Evgenia, saint, such a nice lady. She helped me this morning. If the roles were reversed, I wouldn't have helped. She just goes out of her way. She's a better human being than I am. Eventually said to me, no, don't worry. She said, there's nothing amiss. It's just that you're the first that they've ever seen. And therefore they feel as if they have to make an exaggerated performance of this. They have to prove to the superiors that they were just inches away from putting your fingers in thumb screws. They were almost going to jail you, and then they would have put on a bit of a pantomime because you are the first. You can't let the first guy just whiz through. And I mention that whole story to you because it's very profoundly significant that nobody has come here to see the truth for themselves. When I was with Mikhail, we met a French journalist, and he talked about some of the journalists that had come and gone, a handful. Somebody else talked about a monk. One of the monks took a shine to me, and he said, you are the one. I knew, this is fantastic. Baptism today. Oh, this is great. What a wonderful moment. So in this story, needless to say, I didn't get baptized. I didn't convert just because he decided that it should be so. He talked about a couple of the people, or 3 people. They'd had 3 journalists in 3 years that visited Nikolskaya Monastery. A Brazilian, a Chinese, and an Indian. I was the 4th. It's a disgrace that Western journalism has held such strong opinions on this subject for 3.5 years flat and not even bothered to come to look. You would have thought to yourself that Michael would be telling me about the time that he had to host the Times of London newspaper, Times of London video department, which does, by the way, exist, Times of London radio, Sunday Times of London, 3 department, the Telegraph, the New York. You would have thought that these people would have the integrity to come and look. Marius, I've been in a state of anger. It's like continuing state of anger for almost 3 weeks now, where people say small things to me, and I want to just, the anger simmers here constantly when I observe closely the dishonesty of NATO, of the Luciferian consciousness that we know exists in the West, that controls the West, concerning this war. And it was brought home to me again yesterday. I've been with this lady Evgenia for 3 days now. I arrived here last Friday, got here quite late. We went to the hotel, took off Saturday, as I always take off Saturday. I worked in the hotel, tried to catch up a little bit on Sunday, and Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday she kept me busy. I'm sure that it's going to be weeks before my legs are not painful any longer. 7, 8, 9 hours in 35, 37, 38, 39 degrees Celsius walking in the sunshine. Anyway, yesterday she took me to a place. Let me get the name right. Chersonesos or Chersonesi, depending whether you're translating it in casual English or you're trying to be, keep to the Russian translation. And we had a guide. They've been the hospitality here. These people are far better human beings than I am. Russians generally, they are good people to the last one. And the Russian Federation's hospitality has been impeccable. So they flipping take me to the front of the queue. People have been standing in the sun for hours. It's embarrassing. The director of this, it's enormous. It's a complex of churches and museums. It has a place where you can buy hot dogs and hamburgers and candy floss and toffee apples, whatever. And so I don't want to say a theme park, because that reduces the enormous religious significance of it, because it includes the place where Vladimir the Great in 988 converted to Christianity, and in so doing he brought the Slavic world with him. That Christian act is one of the great acts of the history of Christianity in the world. The enormously significant act. So I don't want to call it a theme park. We're not talking satanic Disney World and pedophilia and stuff like that. It's deeply profound, but you can buy food there, you can go to church there, you can go to best museums I've been in my life. Head and shoulders, end of story. So we get our own personal guide. The guy speaks impeccable English, and he's using these words like Gabians. And I'm thinking to myself as we go, would I have thought to use the word Gabian? Gabian means like a wall that's made out of sub-elements. So let's say you took a wicker basket that you'd bought by the side of the road driving through Zululand, as they weave baskets. Yeah. And you filled 1,000 of them with sand or stone, and you made a wall out of that. That would be a Gabian wall.
Okay.
And each of the elements, each of the baskets is a Gabian. Most incredible English. So eventually I said to this guy, where on earth did you learn to speak so well? He said to me, I studied at university. I said, yeah, but and overseas, where did you? He said, no, I've never worked overseas. I said, what? It's not possible to learn in a schoolroom. English like that. It's just, it's not. He
Mm.
said, no, I learned in the university, at school, university, whatever. And I was a tour guide I have been a tour guide for 26 years, but German is my specialty. I speak much better German. Heavens knows what German he speaks if he speaks better German than that English. That is what's known as received English, which is the highest form of English. So I said to this guy, let me just get one thing straight here. I just want to be sure that I'm following the story. How many foreigners have you had this year? He said, no, none. I said, okay. How many English speakers and or Germans, whatever, have you had since the not the special military operation, I beg your pardon, since Crimea seceded from Ukraine and joined Russia in 2014? So basically what happened in 2014, the Ukrainians, the CIA inspired a coup d'etat. The president ran away. A Western-backed government came into power. There exists to this day a telephone recording of Victoria Nuland debating with the American ambassador in Kyiv who they would decide would be the next president. Never mind elections. The elections, they can have elections, but we will decide who wins the elections. In that process, the Donbass began to protest. I'm simplifying very much. At one of the peaceful protests, it's still well recorded, Ukrainians fired on the Donbass. Then my friend, who I'll tell you about in another video, began. This is the bravest man I have ever met in my life. He began the militia defense of Donbass. And in that, the Ukraine, I beg your pardon, Crimea said we're also leaving, and Russia hastily arranged elections to be held in Crimea, and there was all sorts of finger pointing that the elections were not free and fair, but the Russians did it in a very clever way. They compiled such a body of evidence of the fairness of the elections that nobody mentions it anymore. You never hear Donald Trump, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, the new Secretary of State, which means Minister of Foreign Affairs, Marco Rubio. Nobody ever makes that claim because it's false. The Crimea is Russian, end of story. Everybody wants to be part of Russia. So they vote and they secede. This is 2014. They secede from Ukraine, to use the correct English, and they accede to Russia.
Yeah.
I said, since 2014, when the secession, accession, all of the turmoil occurred and the first sanctions were imposed by the West, how many visitors have you had to guide? He said, none. You know,
Oh.
I said, literally none. He said, oh, we've had the odd person, but it's maybe one a year or two a year, practically none. I said, can we agree practically none? It's under 100, let's say. He said, well, no, it's much, much less than 100. It's less than 20. I said, right. Then we're on the same page. So I said to him, by now my blood was boiling. I was almost spitting with rage. The cowardice of the West, that people won't come and see for themselves. Anyway, that's just really an anecdote. Marius, just about this thing that's bothering me very much, that nobody's come here, but everybody's got an opinion. Other than that, Marius, I've had a great time. Arnold and I are going to be producing a special documentary. I've never done it before. Oh, dear me. I can't say I'm thrilled by the prospect of becoming a documentary filmmaker, but I've learned a lot here, and there's really room for somebody to contribute to the conversation about how this war is a premeditated confection, like in a bakery, or there used to be a Belgian bakery in Durban called Cessibon. And there, you could find all these confections, these fantastic little cakes, like, yes, in today's money, I suppose that one this size would cost you 500 rand. These marvelous things. So it's a confection, and yeah, we're going to expose that. But I've seen a lot of beautiful stuff here. It's been fantastic. I'm in Simferopol. Simferopol is the capital city of Crimea. It's situated roughly in the middle of the island of the peninsula. I beg your pardon. And the peninsula is, roughly speaking, circular or oval. I've been to Bakhchisarai, which is an ancient capital. I've been to see the Russian Orthodox monks. I met one monk with whom I had a very charming conversation, very educational. It's good. Yesterday this tour guide, Dmitry, has said to me, so what do you want to see? Where do you want to begin? And I said to him, honestly, Dmitry, since I've been here, everybody has treated me like a scholar. I'm not a scholar. There's no point in telling me whether the guy was left-footed or right-footed, and whether in those days they used brass nails or bronze nails or iron nails or steel nails or wooden nails to build a boat. That such information and knowledge is completely wasted on me. People are trying far too hard to give me a kind of PhD level exposure to very fine details, whereas I'm here to get more of a strategic understanding of NATO and the West, and this premeditated, satanic, Masonic, 2,000-year-old plan to destroy what's known as the Third Rome in those environments. And I said, really, this is an immersive experience. It's about immersing myself in the culture, like getting into a swimming pool to get wet from head to toe, or to get baptized like Vladimir the Great was baptized, by being immersed fully in the water, or as John the Baptist baptized, by immersing people fully in the River Jordan. I said, by being here and eating Crimean traditional food and seeing the sights and the sounds and the what have you, I'm going to kind of absorb this 1,000-year-old tale better than if I wasn't here. But there's really no point in telling me, day by day from the year 988, day by day, each event that took place. Anyway, so it turned out to be absolutely marvelous. I'll tell you a funny story, Marius. One of the sweetest human stories of my life. You can imagine that in a society like this, that where the faith means so much to a people that was separated, alienated from its faith by another ethnic group. The Russian Revolution was not a revolution of ethnic Russians. It's completely driven by an outside ethnic group. And so the opportunity to practice Christianity has been embraced very greatly by Russians. And that means from the most ordinary human being to professors. So in a place like Chersonesos, you're going to see a guy who looks like a trench digger, and is a trench digger for a living. But he's a Russian Orthodox Christian professing the salvation of our Lord Jesus Christ. And now he wants to come and see this museum. So one of the exhibits is, you go into a room and there's a giant panoramic screen that is about 180, no, more than 180 degrees, not 360. Let's say it's 270 degrees around. And in the middle of this room is a make-believe boat. So you sit on the rowing seats for this, boat from the year 800 or 900 or whatever. And you don't actually row, but the idea is that you travel for 15 minutes through the history of Russia, beginning with the Vikings, the whatever. So we're sitting on our seat there. I'm sitting with Yevgenia. Standing behind me, kind of supervising is old Dmitry, this very well-spoken tour guide. And I was brought to the front of the queue. So between our little party of 3 people, we cheated 3 people who might have been standing for an hour. But I wasn't really in a position to make a scene. I was just terribly embarrassed. Anyway, first English speaker in 11 years, whatever, to the front of the queue, special treatment, into the boat. I thought, heavens above, I can't sit in the front. And the very least I can do, after crooking all these patient people out of their rightful, opportunity, they have to wait now again. The least I can do is sit at the back of the boat. So I insisted on sitting at the back. And old Dimitri's behind me and Yevgenia, and then kind of behind to the right. So not on a seat, but on like a little barrel, is this man who looks like he's come from the provinces, and this is his big day. Ordinary, salt of the earth, human being. I just happened to notice him. And this boat ride begins. And I can see out of the corner of my eye, this guy is like a mongoose. He's so alert. He's on superpower alertness. He's watching this, and we're sailing into Russia from the Black Sea 1,000 years ago. And it's a splendid experience, absolutely terrific. And the boat rocks slightly, and the screen mimics as if it's rocking. So you feel as if you're doing this. And I know boats quite well. And I found myself pitching like that and yawing like this all the time. I was being tricked. I mean, I, of all people who actually know boats and the motion of a boat and, who've been on boats in the sea since I was 10 years old, really, honestly, you would think I had more brains than that. But I caught myself pitching almost all the way forward. My head was practically at my knees. I was being so fooled by this illusion.
Yeah.
And we get to a place, and you can tell by the voice of the narrator. Now, of course, I don't understand a word, but the narrator in Russian, it strengthens his voice, and he makes some bold claim. This is the dramatic moment. We're 35 seconds into this 15-minute experience. We're at scene 3, and he says, and this Wimmy, this uncle, this elderly man from the provinces, dressed like a road builder or a mechanic, jumps up and he says, da, 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 and he starts pointing. Da means yes, as if his point had been proven. He could die in peace. It was one of the most moving human experiences of my life. Dear me, I got a lump in my throat to see the magic that these precious experiences hold for ordinary human beings who've made kind of a pilgrimage, if you like, to come from 1,500 miles away in the summer holidays after, 10 years or 5 years or whatever of saving up to come to this magnificent park to enjoy these super 21st century audio, visual, multimedia experiences. Just this man being absolutely mesmerized to the point that he's communicating with the world around him as if everything was true, as if the cows were true, as if what the narrator was saying was, it was like kind of an angel had come down or whatever. It was absolutely beautiful. Maybe you had to be there, but for me it was terrific, and I'm glad I told the story.
Yeah, yeah. No, I can sort of live through you and see what is happening. It's like, for instance, if we had to do it and put people in a Ossewa with the screens and showing how wild it was for the voortrekkers to move across Southern Africa and what they had to go through, and an older person, it's his whole belief being validated in that point in time of saying, you see, I told you, young ones, this is how it was. Yeah,
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 yeah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it was delightful. Everything has been delightful here, except the walk. Jeepers, these Russians walk, Marius. Heavens above. Yesterday, I don't know, but I walked for about 7 hours in the sunshine,
Sure.
and it has been 37, 38, 36, 38, 39 degrees Celsius over the past week and a half. Whoo! Goodness gracious me. Um, so that's been a bit rough, but today I've taken it easy and I've done some work. You and I are making video. Tomorrow, I'll do work. I've got a sound check for a big interview this weekend in about an hour and a half's time. Um, and then next week, Saturday I'll take off, but Friday, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday morning I'll try to catch up on a whole bunch of work, videos, and what have you,
Yeah.
and do some script writing. On Tuesday, I will catch a bus from here to Sochi, where the Olympics were held a few years ago. No sightseeing or anything there. It'll be bus immediately onto a plane. There'll just be about an hour and a half's window between the bus's arrival and the plane, and then I will fly to Moscow, about a 3-hour flight. I've got some people to meet there, people who've asked to meet me. There may be an interview or two. Obviously, this is first and foremost about Suidlanders. Well, so it's all about Suidlanders.
Yeah.
And then I'll fly home on the 28th after 5 days in Moscow. I'll get some more footage there, presumably meet some more people. There's some quite, I don't want to mention names now, but some real bigwigs who've asked me to meet when I'm in Moscow, but we'll let everybody know about that afterwards.
Yeah.
We've been very blessed in that regard. I met the deputy head of the United Russia Party in Donetsk. I met the deputy speaker of the parliament, a very, very famous politician here in Donetsk. I met the highlight. I'm going to do a video just about her. Is I met Mikhaila, I beg your pardon, Natalia Mikhailovna, who is the head of the Russian representation in Donetsk, and who was also the head of the political element of the Minsk Accords negotiations. So what an incredible woman. Probably, I should think, the most I don't want to use the word charismatic. I don't know what is the right word, but to meet somebody of such fantastic, this woman was entrusted with representing, or not representing, but safeguarding or curating or stewarding Russia's interests in the Minsk negotiations with Germany and Ukraine and France and Britain, all the meddling Western parties. What a powerful mind and such a magnificent human being. So we have been very, very blessed on this tour, Marius, but it looks like I'll fly back on the 28th, barring some miraculous development.
Yeah.
I'll be in South Africa by the night of the 29th of July.
Okay. Well, Simon, enjoy to the fullest the last stretch of your visit to Russia, and maybe we'll do one or two more videos, maybe if while you're there. Maybe do a big finale video before you officially leave. Maybe that's like the last letter from Russia. We can do a nice video on your whole experience, just to sum everything up in a short video of like 30 minutes or whatever. Maybe that's a nice idea to finish it off. But yeah, enjoy, keep safe, and God bless.
Yeah, thank you very much, Marius. To you too, and to the audience, God bless everybody.
Cheers, man. Bye bye.
Marius, bye bye.